Hey everyone, welcome back to the Black Mental Wellness Lounge. We are in 2022. We made it. 2021 was a time. I don't even know what else to say about it, but we're here. We've made it. I hope everyone is safe and healthy, and that your families are safe and healthy as well. Um, as you can tell, the background's different. So my family and I moved, so we purchased a new home. So yay, that was exciting. But my new office is empty. So at some point, I'll fill it and it'll look different. So you all get to kind of go on um, that journey of putting stuff in this office. But I really wanted to start the year talking about like youth mental health. Wanted to talk about Black youth mental health. This pandemic has been tough. It's been difficult. It's been challenging for all of us, but particularly with our young people. Like every other day, like there's some new data or something showing that our young people have really been impacted by this pandemic, whether it be isolation, separation, loss of loved ones, trauma they've experienced if they're not in safe environments, and just the uncertainty of it all, right? And so I really wanted to start the year getting into this topic, providing some support for parents and young people directly. And so today, I have a special guest with me today, and I'm so excited to have her on. And so I have Brittany Cephas on, and so she is here to really get into and unpack some of the things that our young people have been experiencing, and more so, you know how we can support. And so, Brittany, thank you so much for jumping on. I'm so excited. We've been chatting for a bit. We got connected a while ago, and I'm such a fan of you and your work. And so, why don't you take a second and introduce yourself to the lounge?
Yes, yes. I'm so happy to be on the lounge. Thank you, Brandon, for inviting me. I admire the work that you're doing in the community as well. It's very much needed, and it's going to impact our community for sure. So my name is Brittany Cephas. I am a licensed pediatric psychotherapist, which means I'm basically a child therapist, right? And I'm owner of a private mental health practice located in Columbia, Maryland, called Growing Young Minds Counseling, where I support kiddos and teens who are really having a hard time with their emotions and struggling. And like you've mentioned, the pandemic has been tough. So them having someone special to talk to has been super helpful for them and for their parents as well. I'm also a published author of Dear Parents. That's a book that I have that's available now. And I'm a wife and a mom, and I just started my first year as a PhD student. So there's a lot going on in my world, but I'm so happy to be doing what I'm doing, and I love what I'm doing as well.
Oh, that's awesome. See, I didn't know about the doctorate. I didn't know I didn't know you were going for the PhD. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something that I've been wanting to do for the past 3 years, but you know, being in the field is hard and
Hmm.
it can be taxing. So I guess now I'm ready to do it. So it's going well so far, but still a lot of work.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Listen, we need more of us in those spaces.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah, like I'll definitely be looking for that Dr. Cephas post. Definitely ready for that. Look, naming and claiming it.
Yes, Lord. Thank you.
I love it. I love it.
Thank
So,
you.
you mentioned doing the work that you do and working with kids and really like helping them process a lot. And so, this has been a time where I feel like we've had more conversations around this like than ever, which is a good thing. But I think it coincides with the increased, level of anxiety, depression, and things that our young people are feeling. And
Yeah.
so, with your work and engaging with our young people, like what have you been seeing, particularly like in your practice as you and your team have been engaging with young people?
Yeah. So it's been pretty consistent. I think if I could like start from the beginning of the pandemic, um, you know, at the beginning, parents, they weren't sure how long schools are going to be out for, and I had parents reaching out to me saying, I'm looking for services for my child. We don't know how long they're going to be out of school, and I don't want them to get bored. So, that was the initial kind of call. Like they didn't want their kids to get bored, but they also knew that this could have an impact on their emotions because they were away from friends and family. So I was just doing kind of like general practice, offering general services, to them, like check-ins mostly. And then as the pandemic progressed and we realized, okay, like this is getting real,
Mm,
parents started to notice that their kids would become more sad or more anxious or more worried. So then parents are like, my child seems depressed. Can you help them? I don't know what's going on. And up until maybe about 6 months ago, I feel like parents were reaching out to us saying, hey, my child is having fears that they never had
mhm,
before, or they've been complaining about having headaches or stomach aches. Some kids were having leg pains out of nowhere,
mm,
and a lot of them were just expressing fears that were, I'll say, inappropriate for their age.
mhm,
So, like, I had some clients who were like 17, 18, who were afraid to sleep in the bed by themselves, right? And their
mm,
parents are like, this is odd. You've been sleeping in your room in the dark by yourself for a very long time.
right.
But what has been consistent is stress, right? And the prolonged stress for some kids of not really having that proper support to process the loss that you mentioned earlier because of the pandemic, and then
Mhm,
the forced isolation because of it. It's a lot. And then the expectation of doing school and then doing it online and having assignments post and do when they log on for school. Some kids didn't even want to log on for school because it was just so overwhelming. And all of that stress, just again, prolonged and unresolved, really has caused a lot of kids to experience increased symptoms of depression, or have those fears that you can't really explain. You don't know where it's coming from, and the anxiety has been an issue. So I would say depression, anxiety has been on the rise. And it's also impacted them socially, where they're confused about how to connect with people and they
mhm,
don't want to connect with people. I've heard a lot of my clients say, well, I don't like people, or I don't have any friends.
mhm.
And I think it also just had a wear and tear on how they view themselves and how they perceive others as well.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack, and I think it's a lot for them to deal with and unpack themselves.
Yeah.
So appreciative of the work that you and your team are doing.
Thank
And
you.
you mentioned something that like I've thought about like myself and have been trying to process myself, and so that's this thing about expectations,
Yeah.
right? Like we have things that we feel like we're supposed to do. Like you said, you're a wife, you're a mom, like you're,
Yes.
in a PhD program, like you're a therapist, and we all have, these things that these other arenas of us that make us who we are, right?
Yeah.
And during a pandemic, it's impossible to do all these things
Oh,
at the
yeah.
level that we used to, right?
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it gets lost as with us as adults or parents that our kids can't do the same things either.
Yeah. That's good.
And
That's
that's a piece of like me trying to, like I was thinking about it for myself the other day. And so like my family and I talked about like, goals that we wanted to do and things like that. And my
excellent.
son had expressed like, he was like, yeah, he said, one of the things that I want to do better with is like my grades and stuff like that. And we were like, you're a straight A student. Like what better, like what else can you do? And he was
Wow.
like, I just don't want to disappoint anyone. So
Oh,
like if I get like something not right, like I don't want to disappoint like you all or our teacher, my
yeah.
teachers. And we took a
Wow.
step back and we were like, okay, we're putting too much
There you
pressure
go. There you go.
on
There you go.
him. And so yeah, I think that's a lot to unpack, but that's a really, really,
Yeah.
really good point.
Yeah, and I love that you and your wife were able to reflect on that, right? Like that's a moment. Um, those moments are moments that I have with my parents. of
Mhm.
my kids. And I felt like those moments need to happen a bit more, which is why now I'm offering parent therapy as a part of the
Oh,
services.
cool.
Yeah, because I mean, we all need help, like,
Mhm.
especially parents. I mean, we're juggling, right? But just to be able to have that immediate awareness, like, okay, he's doing well. He thinks he needs to do better. What
Mhm.
is causing this? Because kids, they don't want to disappoint their parents. They don't. Our kids want us to think so highly of them,
Right.
and it crushes them when they make a mistake, knowingly or unknowingly, and we show them that we're disappointed, right?
Mhm.
And it's okay to have boundaries and set expectations with your kids. But the thing that I teach, or I like to, recommend to parents who come to me for support, is doing it with love will make them
Mhm.
feel secure.
Right.
If you have to punish them, or if you have to correct them in some way, that's fine. But you do it with love and
Right.
reassure them that they're not a disappointment, that you still love
Mhm.
them, and that they're still amazing, because that's what they want to hear from you.
Right.
So I love
Exactly.
that. I love that.
Listen, we trying. Like you said,
Definitely. Yeah.
it's hard. Yeah, as soon as it came out, like, I was like, "Oh, it's us." Like, it's like in
Uh,
that moment, you're like, "Well,
yeah.
it's probably coming from us,"
Right.
right?
It's probably our fault. Right. And it's
That's
not like y'all are probably like, look, let's get our pen and pencil. Let's write down everything that you're not doing so we can
right.
correct it. Right. It's the subtle things that
Yep.
tell kids, okay, I'm not doing something right. And they are so smart. Like, they pick up on
Mhm.
those things that are unsaid. They pick up on our energies and our vibes and all of that. I have my daughter coming to me, and she's like, well, she's going to be 5 soon. She's like, Mommy, are you mad? And I'm like, well, in my mind, I'm like, I am kind of mad, but I'm not going to tell her I'm mad. So I'm
Right.
like, Mommy's a little disappointed, but I'll be okay. Right. And you want to be
Cool,
honest with
cool.
them, and you want to do it in a way that is developmentally appropriate, you know, um,
Right.
because they know. That's my point. They already know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I don't think we give our kids enough credit with their emotional intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
They don't say it the way that we would say it, but,
Yeah.
um yeah, they're definitely checking for that. And so, like, that gets into this piece of, like, acceptance, right? Like,
Yes.
for our kids, acceptance is major, whether it's, from us, whether it's from peers, teachers, other people that they look up to. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of we did a conversation earlier, like we just released a video talking directly to some young people
Yeah.
about mental health, what they thought about it, like how they talk about it and things like that. And so one thing that particularly, keeps coming up like in my conversations with young people is this thing around acceptance, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't, and one thing that I hear consistently is like people don't understand us. Adults don't
Yeah.
understand us, or I try to have friends, but my other people don't really get me, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of that, and so and adults have it too. But and with our kids and things like that, like how can we support young people when like they're in this particular season where they're like, people
Yeah.
aren't listening to me, I don't feel seen, I don't feel
Yes.
heard, I don't feel
Yes.
supported. Because I don't, so for us as parents, we kind of like naturally always think that they feel that way because that's what we want to project out. But how do we support our young people when they don't receive it? They don't
Mhm.
feel that way.
Yeah. This is actually, like you said, I mean, it's a big one. Um, I feel like it impacts kids in a way where, even if they don't have a mental health concern, it still presents as a
Hmm.
emotional issue, because kids want to be accepted, and they want to feel connected and liked, and cared about, even from their friends. And I have teen clients who I've literally just had some sessions this week with, my kids, who are saying exactly what you just said. and
Hmm.
and this is with um people who they've been friends with for years, like has
Wow.
transitioned from middle school to high school,
Hmm.
right? And grown up with. And it's like, well, what's so significant now that you feel this way compared to before? You've been knowing these people for a while. I think technology, as great as it is, has caused so much pressure for
Hmm.
kids. And, um, you know, just, okay, video games.
Hmm.
I have clients who I think the video game world and the social media world is causing some confusion about what is reality and what is
Sure.
not reality, right? So I
Hmm.
think that is a part of it. And us as adults, we know what the difference is because we didn't grow up um, living through these times.
Right.
We've had to grow into living in these times. So we're a little bit more grounded, but just expectations of what they're seeing on social media, right? And I say to my clients all the time, well, how many times did that person, or do you think that person had to take that picture and position
Right.
everything so perfectly to make you feel like they are rich and beautiful? What's behind the camera that we can't see? Um,
Mm.
and just challenging them to think in that way will help them. Um, but I feel like what could be done, especially as parents or people who work with them in the school or even at church, really listening to what they're saying, just
Hmm.
kind of like what you did with your son, right? Because he could have said
Yeah.
that and you could have been like, yeah, well, you're doing well. It's going to be fine, right? Because
Right.
that is kind of like, let me just pat you on the back and send you on your
Hmm.
way. But just taking the time to give them an opportunity to really share their experience, you'll begin to understand what they're saying. Um, they don't feel like, sometimes kids don't feel like themselves, or they
Right.
don't feel like they are the same as other people. And all of them are saying this. So I really wonder what they're actually meaning by this.
Yeah.
And the generation that is coming up, I mean, a lot of them are questioning, their sexuality and
Right.
things like that, but they're more accepting of differences,
Hmm.
and it's so strange when I think about it because they want to be accepted because they feel like they accept all people, but then they don't feel accepted. So it's like,
Yeah.
who are these people that they're not feeling accepted by? Because
Mm.
if their whole generation is a generation of acceptance and accepting differences, then what is it that they're looking for? And really, I think the answer is love, right?
Mm.
And that is something that can come in any form. And what I usually teach parents is, it's important to know what your child's primary love languages are. And
Hmm.
for, those people who don't know, if you Google Dr. Gary Chapman, he has a whole series on love languages for kids, teens, married
Oh,
couples,
cool.
singles. It's important to be able to appease to your child's primary love languages because they will begin to feel seen and heard and included and connected, and that's where it should start. It really should start in the home, and it will have lasting effects on your child because then they go out and they have friends and they're reassured about who they are, and they
Right.
know who they are, and they know, they feel more confident in themselves. But I think that is definitely something that is going to continue to uh, be a thing that we're trying to figure out as we continue to help kids, because a lot of it is them trying to figure out their identity. This
Yeah.
generation is like, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? But not in a way where it's like, oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. It's like, what do I like? Who do I like?
Right.
Who likes me? Right? It's all about the social part of it. So I think really that's where it is, and we just have to find a way to redirect them. And I think not really redirect them, but just help them understand like your life is bigger than just social media and getting
Right.
likes and getting hits, right? This is,
Yeah.
these are things that are nice, but they don't define you as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so much to even pull from that. I think the love languages piece for kids is important. I'm definitely
Yeah,
going to put what you mentioned. I'm going to put some links in this
yeah,
video
please
for people
do.
who want to check those out for sure. And
Yeah,
I don't think we think about that.
yeah,
With kids, there were a big thing about like love languages, like romantically between people, like learning,
yes,
your spouse's or partner's love language. But
yeah,
how we do that for kids is unique also. Like
oh,
my daughter is very like huggy, kissy,
yeah,
like, grabbing and all that, kind of stuff. Doesn't matter if you're sleepy, if you're in the bed, like that's who she is. And
yeah,
so like trying to figure that out and making sure to reciprocate those things,
yeah,
um, takes time. And it's a really, you brought up the real big thing, the elephant in the room. You brought up social media.
yeah,
I know so many people and parents that are just like, it's the worst thing that has
right,
ever been created. And it's spiraling all of our kids into a frenzy. I more so kind of see social media as a double-edged sword, right?
yeah, yeah,
There are really good aspects of it. There are ways that we can utilize it to
yes,
benefit young people and to help them. And also at the same time, like we talked about with that acceptance piece, there's so much on social media that you pointed out that is so undeniably fake.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
so undeniably fake. And I'm gonna forget the name of the documentary. There's a documentary on HBO Max, and I'm blanking on the name. It'll be in the
no,
description. But essentially, essentially, what they did was that they took three regular people
hmm,
and they were like, we're gonna see if we can make you influencers by
wow,
doing, this stuff. So they showed people like how people buy followers and how a lot of people
yeah,
followers are fake and that they pay for comments, people pay
yeah,
for likes, people
yeah,
pay for follows, people
yeah,
pay for shares, that people rent out
yes,
mansions to have people do photo shoots in, that in one place in LA for $40 an hour, you can take a picture in what looks like a private jet.
oh
It's
wow,
not a private jet, it's a
oh,
studio. $40 an hour. You can look
I mean
famous.
that's affordable right there.
Listen, I'm like, I listen, anybody could just no, Imma scrape up a little $40 and go get me a photo shoot like that. And like, so much of it is like, like you said, between filters and all sorts of things.
Yeah, yeah,
But to them, it's a real place in a real world
yes,
that delivers real feelings and real emotions.
yeah,
Um, so you talked about this a bit. Is there anything like when you're working with your clients and with your kids, is there anything that you tell them as a tip of like how to manage the social media consumption? Because I tell parents all the time, you're not going to be able to get them
yeah,
to not be involved with it.
yeah, yeah,
Right. Like there's like, a lot of parents are like, just unplug. If it's making you upset, don't look at it.
right,
That's never going to work, right? That's never going to be the solution at this point in our society, that social
yeah,
media is going to go away. So,
yeah,
like, is there anything in particular that you're like, here are some things, some tips, some tools, some thoughts, like as you're navigating social media to
yeah,
kind of help them navigate that space?
yeah. Yeah, that's great. I love that. I mean, these are like real live things that we're talking about here that are really happening with people on even my specific case, though, within my practice. Um, you know, the new year is always a time where, even young people are like, well, I want to change my ways. I want to work on something new. I
Mhm,
want to, be better at X, Y, and Z. And I do have some clients who have decided to like just take a break, a self-care
mhm,
break from social media, right? And if they're taking a self-care break from social media, that's something that I'm like, well, if you're taking a self-care break from social media, then we need to revisit why that is considered self-care for you, right?
mhm,
And the thing is what we talked about before, just the stress of comparing them. But comparing themselves, to others.
Mhm.
Now, a strategy that I like to kind of share with my clients is, okay, um, think about how it's making you feel when you're on it, and
Mhm.
think about what types of things you're looking at, because
Mhm.
TikTok can be a resource as well. I mean, you can learn lots of things on TikTok. I
Yeah.
mean, it can make you laugh, it can make you cry, but if you're going on social media with the intention of finding something that's going to feed into your negative emotions,
Mhm.
then maybe that's not healthy. Now, sometimes, even adults, when they're feeling depressed, they want to consume more things to validate that depression. And
Right.
as silly as that sounds, sometimes people just kind of need to feel it until they're ready not to feel it anymore.
Mhm.
Um, Not saying that it's okay and it should be supported, but that is just the psychology behind it sometimes. Now, if they're going on it with the intention to feed into their negative emotions, then, I often work to help them kind of explore their self esteem a little bit more, explore what is healthy and what is not. How can we replace social media? Not take it all away, like you said, but can we go on it in the morning for about 30 minutes, in the afternoon for about 30 minutes, and then, in the evening for about 30 minutes, and then kind of shut it down. And then after you're doing social media, do something that brings you joy, brings you happiness. Now, if they're going on social media because they feel like, oh, well, it's my only way to connect with my really close friends.
Mhm.
It's a pandemic. I can't get to see them. We don't go to the same school anymore. If it's like a thing that the reason seems healthy, I think at that point it's really about putting them in situations where they can have other things that will take up their time, and they're not
Right.
just on social media. Like, for my clients who are in therapy, a lot of them have done other things where they're giving back to the community in some way. I have
Mhm.
a client who she bakes cakes, homemade cakes and treats and desserts, and she gives them to like churches and different organizations for free, like as donations. Like, this is
Oh,
her
wow.
thing, right? That's her ministry, and I think that's beautiful. Um,
Yeah.
uh, so therapy is important. Getting them into to doing something that motivates them, to make them feel good about themselves. And usually I tell my clients, finding something where you're helping someone else will make you feel good. That will
Mhm.
help you as well. So doing things like that, journaling, if that's your thing, or art, or creating something, because anyone could be a creator in today's world.
Right.
So if you want to do social media, then maybe that would be the balance to it. Like, you're not just on it kind of creeping, being upset
Mhm.
about what someone else is doing. Maybe
Right.
you're doing research and you're becoming your own business and doing your own thing. Um, so, I think that that's basically it. Like, how can we basically make it work for you? And if it's not working for you, let's replace it with something else that's healthy until you get into a better place.
Yeah, and I like that awareness piece of it, right?
Yeah.
So, like, taking inventory of, like, what about it is making you upset, or, like, how do you
Yes.
feel when you're on it,
Yeah.
I think is good, right? Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of that conversation came up even too with, um, some of the things that have happened of us, involving, like, this, like, racial trauma that we felt,
Yeah.
like, across the board, when people were
Oh,
like, unplug, don't watch certain stuff, like,
yeah.
take of
Yeah.
how it makes you feel when you see these things, and then kind of like, adjusting accordingly
Yeah.
to that. And so I think that that's a really good piece. It kind of gets them in tune with
Yeah.
their, thoughts and emotions of how social media is making them feel. So I want to ask you this question, and then we'll pivot a bit. So I mentioned, and we did a video. We did a live Black Mental Wellness Lounge. For the
Okay.
first time, we had live teens there, and we
Mhm.
had a conversation, right? We had a
Yeah.
conversation about mental health and all that good stuff. And how it makes them feel, how they talk about it with their friends, with their parents, etc. And so one thing came out of it that really struck me, right? Like, and I couldn't like I went into it when we were talking, but I couldn't like
Yeah.
go into it because I wanted to like shut down everything else and just like
Uh-oh. Let me sip my tea, Brandon. Hold on.
listen. It stuck with me ever since. Like we recorded that in like November, and it's been just on my mind like ever since, right?
Yeah.
So like, I talked and I was asking him a question about like, if you're in a bad mood, do you have strategies to help you transition from that?
Yeah.
And but on the reverse, if you're in a really good state, do you have things in place to help you like maintain it as long as
That's
possible?
good. Yeah.
And essentially, the answer to that second question was, they were like, no, because I don't allow myself
Wow.
to get too happy or to feel too good because I know that there's going to be something that comes around the corner that's going to knock me off of it anyway.
Wow.
And like Brittany, I was like, like in the moment, I don't know if it got it on the video, but I was like, like, it sucked, and it sounded so. I think a big piece of it too is like it sounded like so adult, right? It sounded so
Yeah.
like how we talk of like it's
Yeah.
always something,
Right.
something's all, every time something you do this and then this happened. Like
Right.
it was
Yeah.
from there, but they were teens, right? They're all
Yeah.
high school students. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this can be a really cool time of
Yeah.
your life where you like know yourself a little more, but you don't necessarily have the
Yeah.
responsibilities of an adult.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And like for them to have that weightiness of, I don't allow myself to experience these emotional
Yeah.
highs and joys
Yeah.
because life is so heavy that what's the
Mm.
point? And it was consistent across all four of them.
Wow.
And it really was something that like stuck with me. So like my question is like, how do we help young people like experience joy, learn how to take in
Yeah.
happiness, learn how to just kind of like block everything out and be in the moment when something good has happened, when things
Yeah.
are positive or things like that. Like I really wanted to like figure like how do we help our young
Yeah.
people do that?
Yeah. That is like it's I mean, it just gave me chills hearing that. And it's not the first time I heard it. It's like really morbid. Like,
Yeah,
what do you feel happy about? What makes you consistently have joy in your heart, right? And I think, with my background in education, me being, a school counselor for several years, I always like to incorporate um, learning, and I do it with my
hmm,
clients. So, like, asking them those questions that will trigger those thoughts because they have to be critical thinkers, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's just kind of how it needs to be. I mean, they
right,
just have to. So we have to teach them how to be critical thinkers so they can be problem solvers to be able to function as adults,
right,
successfully. So, for kids who are presenting like, okay, well, that makes me happy, but I know I can't really get too happy because something always happens, and I don't know, I can't accept the happiness that I'm
hmm,
getting right now, right? That's not fair to them, right? They need to know,
yeah,
look, this is not something that is healthy for you, right? We
yeah,
need to experience a variety of emotions, which is why we have them in the first place, right? And
right,
although emotions come and they go, there is something about having this continued sense of feeling some type of joy,
right,
some type of happiness. It doesn't have to be on 10 all day, every day, but your baseline, if it's sadness, then you need some help and we can
hmm,
work towards that. But there should be some happiness that you carry with you. And, you
right,
know, this could be really tricky because some kids have a history that is not so great, like of
mm,
being abused or neglected,
right,
right? And then growing up, that's kind of like something that's always been in their life. So I can see in that particular situation or that particular example, if a child's only known disappointment
right.
and
That's
pain
good.
um, and hardship, that this is kind of like what they expect, it's
Mhm.
that they anticipate it. Like, okay, just bring it on. I know it's going to happen, right?
Right.
But for those who haven't had a history that is just so dark like that, and it's more kind of because of, I'll say because of their environment,
Mhm.
because of, again, things like, and I'm not saying social media is bad. I'm doing social media. Everybody's doing it
Right.
in some levels, right? It's good. It's just how we are taking it in and how we're perceiving it. But if it's them having not so great of a mental health kind of state, because, kids, whether we're in a pandemic or not, pre-pandemic kids had anxiety and depression as
Mhm.
well, right? So I'm not saying the pandemic has caused it, but like, the pandemic has exacerbated a lot of these
Yeah.
things for kids. So, like, if they're already having issues with like managing symptoms of depression and anxiety, and then they're not connected to anyone in a way where they were used to being able to like hang out or, spend a night over their friend's house or go out to dinner. And then think about it, even when they're in school, a part of their communication is cut off. They can't see each other smile at each
Right.
other. They don't know how
That's
people
true.
are looking at them. You can't really get close to someone because of COVID. Like, how do we connect with people?
Mhm.
And social media is just a place where they compare themselves, even to people who they feel close with. And
Right.
so everywhere they turn, even through COVID, if they've lost someone or they didn't get a chance to go on their vacation or just things just crumble, it seems like.
Right.
I can get where the mindset is. Um, but again, for the different histories, either way, um, helping them find something that brings them some type of joy and helping them slow down, right? Okay, it's
Mhm.
okay to know that you have it, but don't be so quick to throw it away. Like,
Right.
what about this brings you joy? Like, okay, how does it feel in your body? Where do you feel the joy in your body? Like, is it in your
Mhm.
heart? Is it in your head? Do you feel it in your stomach?
Right.
Like, because you want to make it into a thing that they're learning to really pay attention to, which is
Right.
why practicing mindfulness is important.
Mhm.
Paying attention to your thoughts is important. And the things that I'm saying, no one's supposed to know these things, right? This is why
Yeah.
we have platforms like this, and you're doing the awesome work that you're doing, because these are resources for people to learn and to grow and to be able to give this information to their kids. But putting kids in a position where again they can have success, even if it's small little success, and celebrating that with them.
Mhm.
Like, this is amazing. Do you understand? This is amazing. You did a great job. um, that will also be helpful. Getting them some type of mental health support would be helpful.
Right.
Putting them in a position of leadership, getting them connected to other people who who are in a better space, I think, like mentors or big brothers or big sisters,
Mhm.
things like that. I will share that, every year, well, the first year was last year, but I anticipate to continue to do it again. We have a our second annual Teen Girls Retreat that is going to be coming up this August. Last year, we were able to service um, 10 girls. This year, we're projecting to do 25
Oh,
teen girls.
wow.
Yeah, and the girls loved it, and they're like, "Well, we want to do 2 nights because it was like an overnight event. They wanted to do
Yeah.
2 nights this year, and the event really is about like giving back to them, teaching them
Mhm.
about self-love, self-care, self-acceptance,
Right.
and showing them how to be leaders and to be confident. And these are different things that can be done online, virtual events, giving your child, different books that help them,
Mhm.
and, workbooks as well to kind of challenge some of their thinking. But really, I mean, this is a all in kind of approach, right? I mean,
Right.
not just one thing. This isn't like a one conversation and you're done. This is like
Mhm.
pulling from different resources. So just, helping them find different ways to kind of like find success will help them be able to begin to see themselves differently and to
Right.
feel good about themselves, which would help with their self-esteem, which would eventually help with accepting that while I do deserve to be happy, just
Absolutely.
don't think they deserve to be happy. And that's really what it is.
Yeah, and that's such a great point. Like feeling, when you mentioned that self-acceptance and all of that, like that goes a big way to feeling the joy because I feel like I deserve this. Like good things
Yeah.
can happen to me. Like
Yeah.
and I'm worthy of that is amazing. And so thank you so much for laying that groundwork down and all the things that you shared today. And so like
You're
before
welcome.
we kind of wrap up, like I really want you to like full on self promotion. Like everything that you got going on, because you got your website that's amazing. I want you to
Thank
talk more
you.
about the retreat as well and where people
Okay.
can get more information about that,
Okay.
your book, just all the things like how can people get connected to you, all the things that you're doing, like full on, like give us everything. And I'm gonna put all this stuff in the description. You want you to be able to just click and get
Thank
this
you.
information, but I want you to
Yes.
take that time and I want to elevate you in the amazing things that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Brittany. I appreciate that. So, my practice does have a website. You can go to www.grow, GROW dash like hyphen minds, MINDS.com. Growing Young Minds Counseling is the name of my private practice. You can find me on Instagram at mrs.childtherapy. There you'll get just some quick tips and tricks on how to help your child thrive. And that's where you can find me. Send me a message if you have any questions or concerns. When it comes to the team retreat, we were going to be opening, I guess, registration around March, I think. So if you are interested, just kind of be on the lookout. We're going to be promoting that soon. But you can find information about the retreat on my website. Also, you can go to the link in my description on Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel that I started. It's slow rolling, but that's also a place where you can get some really cool tricks and resources on how to help your kids thrive. And the channel is Brittany Cephas TV. That's where you'll find me there. And then my book, Dear Parents, here's your guide to raising emotionally healthy and happy children. That is available on Barnes and Nobles online and Amazon as well. So that is basically it.
Awesome, awesome. So you won't have to hunt all that stuff down or write it down. It'll all be right for you, right on the link to this video, and I will definitely tag the YouTube channel as well
Thank you.
as a part of this. And honestly, Brittany, I can't thank you enough
Thank
for
you.
spending time. I know that you are, super busy and well sought after. Again, we're going to elevate people here on the lab. So I appreciate you doing that. All the information that you shared,
Thank
so
you.
appreciative. And I also hope that you're, resting and taking
Yeah.
care of yourself as
Thank you.
well. That
Thank
self care
you.
piece is so key, especially for our mental health clinicians. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's big, and so I
Yeah.
hope that you're have everything that you need in this season.
Thank you so much. I'm so appreciative, and I'm happy that we've connected and found each other. And I hope that we can do something soon again this year as
Yeah,
well. That'd be great.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to get some stuff done for the end of the year, so we'll, you know, foreshadowing. So we'll see
Yeah.
how that goes for sure. Oh,
Thank you so
but
much.
again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
So this is our first episode of 2022. Thank you all for tuning in, and come back for content throughout the rest of the year. And I hope you all are able to be rested and staying safe.